Okay. Are we live? This says we're live.
It just popped up live on mine.
Okay. Let me just see here. It shows me the feed at the same time.
I was about to say, so you can see the chat, but I can't.
No, I can see the actual video playing on YouTube, which I'm probably going to turn off. Are we live?
Yeah, it's echoing.
It says we're live. Okay. So I probably will turn that off. Oh, I can actually look at the chat. Okay, you're right. All right, cool. So for those who may be here, welcome back. It's Joe and Sydney again. And today we're going to do a presentation on human design. And we had originally intended to do this last week, but we're having a bunch of tech issues. And actually, it was really good that we had the week because Sydney has put together an awesome PowerPoint for you guys. So she's going to do that. And then we're going to probably save. Do you want to save questions for after, Sydney, or do you want to try to address them in the moment?
Well, I guess that would depend on the question if it's relevant or not. I have no access to the chat, so I can't see when questions are coming in. So if it seems relevant, just ask. If it seems like it's way out there and it would take my mind to a completely different direction, maybe save it. But okay. I'm completely open to going into discussion based on questions that come up. So we'll feel it out.
Okay. So basically, because I can see the chat and you can't, I might do, just a little shout out like I'm going to right now. Hi, Samantha. Thanks for joining us. And if there is a question that I feel should be answered in the moment, then I'll shoot it at you. And if not, we'll address all the questions afterwards for anybody who's just joining us. And I don't know if I have any ability to see. Okay, I do have the ability to see how many people are here. Bear with us. This is our first live stream YouTube Zoom meeting. So at any rate, I'm going to hand it over to Sid, and Sid is going to do a PowerPoint presentation on human design and teach us a little bit about how all that works. So it's all you.
All right. Well, it looks like I'll go ahead and share my screen then. Is that going to affect what you're doing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It should be.
All right. Well, actually, let me make sure the PowerPoint's up. Okay, it is. So I made this PowerPoint to better help me explain the complexities of this modality. There are so many features, and I think that's partly why I love it, but my mind tends to jump all over the place. And so creating this PowerPoint allows me to linearly go through in a way that progressively adds on concepts and definitions and things like that. So that's the main reason. So I'm more so using them for prompts. And slideshow. Let me move the little box. Now on your view, can you see the video boxes of us?
Yes. And I'm waiting to see right now what comes through on the actual stream because it's about maybe 30 seconds behind us.
Okay. I didn't know if our faces are going to be on the slide, so I need to make sure that it's in a good place.
Okay. So actually it's just you because you're the presenter.
Okay.
Which is fine. I had myself muted anyway. And then you are in the upper right small little corner, so I think it should be fine. Oh, it's just showing whoever's talking. So I'll be muted. So it's just going to show you, and it's just in this just a small little corner on the upper right. So if there's anything that's not showing, I'll let you know, but it should be fine.
Sounds good. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to share this system with you. I've been really looking forward to it all week, and the time is now. So let's begin. Oh. Okay, back. All right. Human design. It is known as the science of differentiation. So you might be asking, what is this? Human design actually combines a number of modalities into one. It's a synthesis of modalities. It combines Eastern and Western astrology, the Kabbalah system, the Chinese I Ching system, and the Hindu chakra system with quantum physics. So this is what the body graph looks like. And as you can see, there's lots of numbers, shapes, lines, colors, all the things. And we're going to go into depth about the most important elements throughout this presentation. So just to give you another overview, this is Joe and I's body graph. As you can see, there's a lot of similarities, but also quite a few differences. We're also going to be diving into that more later. So why use this system? How can it help you? This system provides you a roadmap back to your true self. It helps you to understand the way your energy operates and how you can best operate that energy, and give you insights into how you perceive the world and how you interact with the world. So this is really going into energetics, how people feel you on that subconscious energetic level and how you feel other people. So it really helps with understanding human interaction more or better. I also have a few notes. Just gonna say it, I'm a little bit nervous to be presenting, but gonna roll with it. So if I seem a little scattered at times, I'm just going through the nerves or working through the nerves of that. Anyways, so So the main goal of the system is to help you live in alignment with your authentic self. It can also help with developing a sense of self-love, because you can't love yourself until you accept yourself, and you can't accept yourself until you know and understand yourself. So this system helps with understanding of self, so that way you can accept what's truly you. It can help when looking into healing elements of the shadow, known as the not self, we'll go into later. But all in all, getting to know yourself better so you can love and operate yourself to the best of your ability. So if you are interested to know what your human design body graph looks like, you can go to mybodygraph.com, and it will show up in this format here. You'll have the chart on the left and list on the right. So the list will tell you your type, strategy, not self-theme, signature, definition, authority, profile, and incarnation cross. And we're going to go into what all of those mean as well. But again, if you would like to follow along while looking at your chart, feel free to go over there and plug it in. What you will need to generate your body graph is your birthday, your birth time, specific to the minute if possible, and birth city. Again, it calculates the placements of the planets, as well as energy that was around during your time of birth and 88 days before your birth. But those mechanics can get pretty complex, so we'll leave it there for now. And let's see. And as you can see, here's Joe's. We are both 6-2 generators. So the 6-2 comes from the profile, and generator comes from the type. We both have different incarnation crosses, which there are a lot of, and we'll go into details as we go through. So let's go over the basic terms. We have the body graph. Everyone has the whole body graph, but it's the parts that are colored in that are unique to you. So as you can see, there are centers similar to the chakra system, but there's actually 2 more. We'll go into what all of these shapes mean, but just know that they're energy centers for now. Now, you'll also see lots of numbers, both on the sides of the graph and within the graph. Now, it's the numbers on the side that will correspond with the numbers within the graph. So as you can see right here, 35 is in said placement, and then you'll find it here, and that would be colored in the graph. On the right, it is known as the personality side. This is the side of energies we are more conscious of. You can think of the gates as an archetypal energy in which has a high expression and a low expression. And the goal is to understand the general energy and maximize it to its highest potential. But it's getting clear on what that is to begin with. But gates aren't something you get into until a little bit later. It's most important to start off with your type, your profile, and your authority, which I'll talk more about later. But to give you the overview, we have our personality side, the conscious side. And any number on this side will be in black. And then the corresponding gate will also be in black. It doesn't show it here, but I'll point it out again later. On the left is the unconscious side, our design side, the side of our soul signature energy. Now, these archetypal energies are ones that might not resonate right off the bat. If you have been doing a lot of conscious healing work, they might resonate a little bit quicker. But these are the things that are under the surface, operating subconsciously rather than consciously. So we have a gate, that's the number, and it goes about halfway through the line until it gets to the next center, the next shape. When two gates come together, it creates a channel. And when you have a channel defined in your body graph, that can tell you your energetic gifts and an energy you are designed to master and share with this world. And then the last element you can see here is the line numbers. So after each gate, it has a period and then another number. Now, the number after the period is driven from 6 different lines, each of which also correspond with a particular archetype we'll dive into more later. Oh no, are you, is everything good? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're on mute. Oh. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My laptop overheated, and then when I turned it back on, it came back into the thing. I wasn't even sure if we were still live streaming, and then my keyboard wouldn't connect, so I couldn't hit the button to unmute it. So I'm back now.
Okay.
If I'm glad that it kept streaming and that it kept rolling, so that's good.
Good. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, my whole computer crashed. So, all right, we're good.
You just stopped the recording. Did you want to turn it back on? You're mute. This is going great.
It's still streaming. I wasn't trying to record it because YouTube's recording it anyway. It just automatically turns on recording anytime I launch the Zoom client.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. I was a little confused.
No big deal.
Anyways, all right. So to briefly recap what I just explained, we have the gates, which you can find associated with each planet. If it's in black, that means it's part of your personality design, and that will also correspond with your body graph. And then vice versa with anything in red, that is associated with your design, your soul signature energy. 2 gates come together to create a channel, and centers can be open or closed. And we will go into that now. So, like I mentioned, if you're just starting with human design, you're brand new to all of this, start off by generating your body graph. Again, this is from mybodygraph.com. Figure out what type you are, your strategy, and authority. And from there, you can begin to add in all the details and more nuance. So let's talk about the centers. Each center is similar to like a chakra in that it has a energy theme that it's responsible for. As you can see at the bottom, we have the root, responsible for drive, stamina. This is also connected with our adrenals, our primitive primal instincts. We have the sacral center, which is our life force energy center. It is the strongest motor of the 4. We'll go into what the 4 are later, but just kind of giving you an overview of what it all is for right now. We have the splenic center, which is more about our instincts, intuition, our survival. And we have our solar plexus. This is responsible for emotions, not only processing our own, but also others. And whether that's defined or undefined will affect the nature of its mechanics, as every center would, but we'll get there momentarily. We have the ego center, also known as the heart center. This is our willpower, our motivation. We have the G center, which is our sense of self, identity, our direction in life. the throat center, our manifestation center, the center that communicates and puts things into said reality field. We have the ajna, which is for conceptualizing, seeing different perspectives, points of view. And then we have the head, or the crown chakra, or crown center, head center, whatever you want to call it. This is where we get questions, inspiration, thoughts, things of that nature. So here's another similar graph, but this has a little bit more detail. In this particular example, all of the centers would be considered defined. They're all colored in. Now, if you remember what Joe and I's graph looked like, some were colored in and some weren't, and we're going to get into what that means shortly. So all of the gates, all of the centers, their goal is to get energy to the throat to then manifest. And the different centers also have different roles to play in conjunction with the overall theme they're responsible for. The root, sacral, heart, and solar plexus are known as motors. So I like this graph because it also tells you what type of center it is. So we have the prime motor, that's our life force, strongest motor. Pressure, the root motor, which is actually a pressure center, as is the crown. We have the solar plexus, which is also an awareness center, and the heart. Now, these are the centers that are constantly producing energy to move your body, to think, to just do things in general. And when people have a design where all of these are open, or maybe only one is colored in, energy management becomes a lot more important in regards to the practical application. Okay, so we have the 4 motors that produce the majority of our energy. We then have 3 awareness centers. These are the centers that help us sense our environment. Solar plexus. So the solar plexus has 2 roles, motor and awareness. The spleen, our intuition, awareness center. And the ajna, the last awareness center. Again, with seeing perception, seeing different, being aware enough to shift your perception in alignment with your design. And then I guess I'll just briefly touch on the pressure centers. This is where energy can intensify. And actually, I'm going to leave that because it'll be easier to explain once I show a few different pictures. So how's everyone doing so far? I kind of do wish I could see the chat now, but that's all right.
So let me just check in here. Greatest ever is here for a few minutes, and says, go Sydney. Samantha says, you're doing a great job. Sentinel asked if we offered readings, and I told Sentinel that I will post your link tree and that we're updating the website and stuff like that. So if you could shoot me the link tree. I was trying to find it right now to get a link, but I can't log into my Instagram. It's just a whole mess. So if you can send me the link to the link tree, I'll put it in the chat so that people can go to it.
Man, technology is never on our side.
It's just,
I guess makes sense considering the nature of what we're doing. But anyways, we'll save that for another conversation.
Shoot me the link tree link, and I'll throw it in the comments here.
Right now or after?
Whenever you get a chance. If it's easy, do it now. If it's not, we'll do it after.
I'll do it after.
Okay.
I'll stay in my flow. If
all right. I'll let you know if there's any relevant questions or anything, but I think right now we only have a few people here. So
okay.
The presentation will be recorded though. So
okay. Another reason I really like this graph, because it also shows what elements of the physical body it corresponds to. And that'll come in handy referring back to a little bit later.
Also, Sydney, if you want, I can send you the YouTube link so that you could actually you could do what I'm doing and watch the feed and be in the chat from your account if you want.
If we started that way, that'd be fine, but let's just keep rolling. Okay.
I'll let you know if there's anything relevant. Okay. And Samantha says the information is really great.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Very, very glad. Taking a deep breath. All right, this isn't just another graph I found cool. It tells you the percentage of people that have each center open or defined. Now, it's important to view, or it's, okay. An important thing to remember when going into this philosophy is that no design is better or worse than another. It all is what it is. If you exist on this earth, you are here with a purpose, you are here for a reason, and you are here to be in a unique expression of source, not like anybody else. And so it's really important to remember we all play a role in this cosmic dance. And so I've really liked using this system, or this system has really helped me to remove unnecessary pressure to be something that I'm not, or to try to fit into societal boxes that I'm just not designed to be able to operate like. And we'll go into more details as we go on. My mind keeps wanting to jump ahead, but I'm trying to stick basic and build up. I'm working on that. Okay. Let's see. I want to find, all right, so really quickly, I just want to show this as an example, and then I'll go back to those last two slides. All right, so let's talk about what it means, whether something is colored in or not colored in. And we're just talking about the centers. We're only talking about the shapes right now, not the lines, not the numbers, not any of that. Now, the colors within the centers doesn't matter. If it is defined, it will be the same color across the board for everyone else who has that defined too. So don't get caught up on the colors of the centers. The only time color matters is when it comes to the gates. And again, like I mentioned, if it's in black, it'll have a corresponding gate in black. And if it's red, it'll have a corresponding gate in red. And if it's both, half black, half red, that means you'll be able to find gate 22 on both sides. So, all right, let's talk about what it means if it's opened or opened or closed. So if you have, let's talk about, okay, definition. If it's colored in, this is where you consistently produce energy. You can rely on this place of yourself, energetically speaking. If it is open, it is not consistent. And what it does is pull in energy from the environment and actually experience an amplified version of that energy. So there's a lot of wisdom within the open centers, but that comes after the deconditioning process. Let's see.
I have a question about that.
Okay, I like questions. And that is one thing I'll quickly say before you ask, is that we're both generators and our strategy is to respond. And what that means is we're supposed to wait for something to present itself in our environment and then respond to whatever that is. So coming up with things out of the blue is a little more difficult for generators. So having questions, feedback, dialogue is helpful. So yes, what is your question?
I just like, when I make videos, I just like to argue with the voices in my head. It makes it a lot easier.
Gotcha.
But so my question is, which center corresponds to the like the picking up of emotions? Because I know that that's something that a lot of people that get into this, you know, have struggle with, like the empaths, right? So which center is that?
That would be the solar plexus, which is the triangle pointing inwards on the right.
So if that's open, then you're going to pick up other people's emotions really strongly and amplify them. Like you're going to feel like an amplified version of it.
Exactly.
And we both have that.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And so the purpose of an open center is to experience and sample lots of different energies from lots of different people, from lots of different environments. And remember that just because you are experiencing it doesn't mean that it's you. The parts that are us, we are supposed to lean into, are the places that are colored in, that are considered defined.
Samantha says that makes sense.
Yes. So whether or not a center is colored in or not colored in will affect the way that it operates, as we've kind of touched on at the moment.
She says she has that center open as well.
Yes, I believe, I forget the percentage. I would have to scroll back a lot of times, but a lot of people do have it open. But if it's colored in, that means you are here to ride your emotional waves. So
now, do you have, I know later in the presentation, you have specific slides on specific centers. Are you specifically addressing the crown and ajna in those?
no, the only three centers I was going to specifically go into today were the places where we differ. So we were going to compare and contrast the root chakra or the root center, compare and contrast the heart center, and compare and contrast the throat center.
The reason that I'm asking is because we both have open crowns and ajna centers. And I think that, I mean, I don't know because I don't know as much about this as you do, but there was a lady that we were watching on YouTube that said she had that same configuration. And I know that it's something that you understand pretty well. What sort of effect does that have?
Well, with any open center, there is a tendency to fall into not self patterns, not self themes. And for the crown in particular, that is thinking about things that don't matter or trying to answer questions that aren't yours. So open centers do not have their own consistent energy. They're picking up, drawing in energy from the environment, especially generators and projectors. They're auras very enveloping, so to say. I think that's the right word to use there.
So specifically with like the ajna center, it has to do with like your third eye, like your inner vision, the way you see things, like the way that you see concepts and so on and so forth. Like, I think you had told me that it allows you to see other people's like perspective really well, having an open center.
Well, that's the ajna, not the crown. You can think of crown being more responsible for overall awareness, like an antenna, but then the ajna being more like a flashlight, where your perception is aiming. What is in that particular perception? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like the ajna is the sight. When like what sort of perception is happening with the crown? You said it's like an overall kind of, is it information based? Is it like the third eye is like kind of like sight based, like you're seeing images, right? What's the perception like type of the crown? Thoughts? Okay.
Well, it depends, because the nature of everyone's centers will depend on, number one, whether it is opened or closed, and then number two, what gates or channels or both are coming off of it. And so just to refresh, a gate is just the number, and a channel is when two numbers on two channels meet together. That would be a channel. And so whatever gates you have coming off of that center affect what energies that are, it affects the tendency of your energy, if that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So I guess we can take a moment to talk about that, and I can go back to the other two slides momentarily. As you can see, if you're looking at Joe and I's chart, I have a crown completely open with no gates coming off of it. Joe's is undefined. So the terminology kind of gets thrown around, but to make it super clear for you guys, open means that it is not colored in and there's no gates. Undefined means that it's not colored in, but it has gates coming off of it. So I have an open crown, Joe has an open ajna, and then I have an undefined ajna, and he has a undefined crown, but that's extra technical. Oh, but I guess I can talk about how when you are, say you're around someone with a defined crown center and you have an open crown center, you will then be picking up on their subconscious and mental questions they might be asking or have themselves internally. But that question will only be there while they're around. Once they leave and you are out of their energy, you go back to your normal thought process. And I had a couple extra notes.
I have a question about that, because I think that's something that happens with me like a lot. do you have to be like physically next to them, or could you just be like tuned into their energy at a distance? Like if you like focused on the person, could you still like, would this still apply? Could you still like pick up on the person's thoughts? Because I feel like I've had situations where that's occurred.
I think so, but I can't say for certain. I know for a fact that when you're in their physical environment, it will have an effect. And it makes sense that it would be if you tune into their energy field, you're going to be tuning into their gates, their channels, their centers and stuff like that. So I would say yes, but that's kind of off my own reasoning.
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
I know you're looking something up right now. Are you going to like discuss more about how when two people are together, like they sort of like fill things in?
Yeah, that's when I was going to talk about that once we get to definition.
Okay.
That's the thing. There's so many elements and they're all so perfectly woven and interconnected that it's too easy to jump around. So
that's like why we ended up doing a PowerPoint, because we wanted to have it, put together in order. So
yeah, because when I'm doing a particular reading, I explain things based on what's present in their body graph. But when I'm speaking on it from a general sense, my open crown accesses so much data that it can be difficult to sort through, which is what's happening internally now, and still kind of getting out my stage fright jitters, but
doing good.
Okay.
Sentinel has a question. You want to answer it? Okay. Sydney, much like the oversimplified sun sign compatibility, are you able to comment at a high level on compatibility between a manifesting generator and a projector?
I'd have to know more of the chart to answer that, because there's so many elements, and one element of each of your graph might work together in perfect coherence, but there might be two gates that conflict each other, or there might be a different center that conflicts with each other. But it's hard to answer that generally without seeing the full graph, because all of it plays into the whole. It's a very holistic modality as well, in that
to me, it seems kind of like basically it's like the horoscopes that you see in the newspaper are so generalized, like that they're a lot of times not accurate, because there's a lot more information that's needed to make a really accurate reading, right? And I think that's what kind of Sydney's getting at right now.
And like what he was saying about like overall compatibility between. Okay, I understand the question a little better now. Not necessarily. So to answer that, there's not specifically known things. Now I'm curious to know what other elements of the chart.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have the two charts really to get on.
But I will say projectors are non-energy beings, and that doesn't mean that they never have energy, but they have less access to energy. Manifesting generators are like the Energizer Bunny. They've got energy for days. What makes them a manifesting generator is that they have their sacral defined, and it connects to the throat. So there is a quick exchange of energy from the life force center up to the manifestation center, so it can come into reality much quicker. So I guess I should keep going so I can get into the types.
Yeah,
that will also help answer the last question.
I have a quick observation and maybe a question. Could there be a situation between a manifesting generator and a projector where, because of the energy dynamic and the nature of it, like the manifesting generator might perceive the projector as being like vampiric, like feeding off their energy all the time?
Potentially. I know a big thing with projectors, and the ones that I've done readings for and worked with tend to be called and told that they're lazy and things along those lines, when really that's just not true. We'll get into the mechanics of their particular aura, but we're all designed in our own unique way, and the type tells you about the nature of your biofield, your aura. And so I'm just going to go forward then, because it'll pull up the picture for that.
Sentinel says thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. Hopefully my face isn't in the way. I'm trying to move this little box around. All right, so let's talk about types. I've kind of thrown a lot of stuff out there. Let's bring it back in. So there are technically 5 types, but also technically 4. And the reason for that is that we have a generator and a manifesting generator. So let's just start off with the overall distribution of each energy center. So as you can see up here in this left-hand corner, the majority of our population are generators or manifesting generators. So it's likely that you know someone of this type in your life. And they're usually pretty easy to identify in that just the way that they, what's the word? Emote. Anyways. Then we have a small amount of projectors, and the projector's role is really to counsel and guide, but I'll get into that once we get over here. See, this is my open crown and my open ajna right now. You guys are seeing this real time, real life. My completely open crown does whatever it wants, and then my third eye, which is responsible for perception, kind of goes along with it. And so bringing it all back to center. So then we have a small amount of manifestors and a extremely small amount of reflectors. So let's talk about what that means now. So if you are a generator or a manifesting generator, your aura is very attractive, very open. It draws things in, and you can see that in the bottom left corner a little bit too, the actual aura mechanics. Now, strategy, as you see here, goes with type. Every type, every generator or manifesting generator will have the same strategy. Type and strategy go hand in hand. What ends up changing is later down the road, and that's authority, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But type and strategy go together. So if you are a generator or a manifesting generator, your strategy is to respond. Again, like I mentioned, it's about being present, waiting for opportunities to present themselves, and then checking in with the sacral center, which is your guttural sounds, guttural instincts of the or Those are examples of the sacral guttural sound. And so once said opportunity or option is in front of you, to check in with that. And if it goes, that's a yes, and that's a no. And then you live accordingly or act accordingly. Now, I do get a lot of questions from manifesting generators asking, well, is it just that, or is there a piece of the manifestor strategy that kind of ties in? And the answer to that is yes. So if you're a manifesting generator, it doesn't necessarily show it in this graph, but from my research and working with people and manifesting generators, I have found that the best strategy for manifesting generators is to first wait for opportunity to respond to, but then once you respond, let people know what you decided. That's where the informed component comes in. Manifestors have the exact opposite aura of a generator. So manifestors are not necessarily, I don't mean repulsive as in like a pretty or ugly way, but just the energy mechanics of it. It repels, it pushes out, it puts things into manifest, which makes sense. These people will generally have a very, very strong aura. Let's see. Their strategy is to inform, so to let other people know what they're doing. Because manifestors can often do things very quickly, they'll think about something and just do it. It can kind of leave people out of the loop, or they might feel distant from the manifestor if they're not communicating. So I could go deeper. I'm curious, does anyone in the chat know what type they are? I know someone mentioned manifesting generator and projector, but I would love to tailor the degree of depth I go into based on what's most relevant to whoever's here.
Okay, just keep in mind that the chat is 30 to 45 seconds behind, so they're not going to get your question for about another minute. But J13 happened to answer your question as you were asking it and said they are a 1-3 manifesting generator looking to learn more about human design. Stoked to be here. Thanks for being here, Jaden. And maybe we'll get people more.
Yeah, so hopefully you just heard what I explained about the strategy of a manifesting generator and how it combines both the nature of the manifestor and the manifesting generator. But really quick, let's see what that looks like in the body graph. So in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the different types. Manifestors.
Also, what? Sentinel is also a manifesting generator.
Awesome. Cool. I tend to notice that generators tend to attract generators a lot of times, both manifesting and non-manifesting. But so what makes a generator is having their sacral center defined. They're the only type that will consistently have that defined. Manifesting generators will have that defined as well. What differs in a generator to a manifesting generator is that a generator will not have a channel up to the throat, but the manifesting generator will. So the image in this bottom right-hand corner of the generator is actually a manifesting generator. Now, if you do not have the sacral center defined, that leaves a number of options. You could either be a manifestor, projector, or a reflector. If you are a manifestor, that means that you have 1, 2, or all 3 of the other motor centers defined and connected to the throat. So that way you can have said life force energy flowing to the manifestation center consistently. Now, projectors, maybe I should have picked a better image. Projectors will also have their sacral center undefined or open. I am now seeing mistakes in this particular picture because projectors will not have a connection from the motor to the throat, but just ignore that. And then reflectors, 1% of the population, this is very, very rare, is when all of your centers are open. Therefore, you are directly reflecting your environment at all times. And the strategy of the reflector is to wait a complete moon cycle. So yeah, we can go into that a little bit more, but I have actually only met one reflector in my life. And it was a really cool experience getting to know that she was a reflector after working with her for probably a year. I worked with her for a year. And then a little bit later, I found this system, and then I had the suspicion, yeah, I think that's the right word, that she could be because she was very sensitive to sound and noise, and she had a lot of health issues and stuff like that. And when I discovered this, and I started to explain, like, hey, it's okay. Like this is just the way you're designed. And I'm not going to go into the details of how that story panned out, but it was good. It connected a lot of dots. In fact, she even got a little teary-eyed just to feel validated, to feel some confirmation as to the true self she's been sensing inside is okay. It's acceptable. And so anyways, getting a little off topic there, but reflectors are designed to sample, experience a little bit of everything, and obtain wisdom from the experiences and connections that they make.
We have another response. Samantha is a generator.
Cool. Yep. We are both generators as well. So that is awesome.
Hello, generator.
Okay. So, we talked about manifestors, talked about generators, talked about reflectors. I think I touched on projectors, but I'll just say a couple more things on there and then we'll move on. Because whether or not you're a projector or not, or any of these things or not, it's cool to understand maybe someone else in your life who has the projector as their type, or maybe you're a manifestor and you know someone who's a generator. It just helps to not only accept yourself and the way you're designed, but it also gives other people permission to be themselves and operate the way they're designed too. So
yeah, I'll comment on that briefly. I feel as though understanding this information completely could help us solve a lot of the social issues that we have because of exactly what Sydney's saying. Like, there's so many things that are basically frowned upon and said to be lesser than in terms of people's behavior and just the way that they're built. And, you know, it actually turns out that some of these things are literally built into the human condition, like built into the human design. And we are making people wrong for literally things they cannot change. You know, be really nice if they understood that. That's all.
You're frozen.
I'm frozen. Okay, well, I'm assuming that it's still rolling, so just continue as if it's okay.
Okay, I kind of stuttered on my end, but I think you said keep rolling. So we're going to keep rolling. Okay. All right. So real quick, I guess I'll, so these are the percentages of the population that have these places open. Oh, wait, there's one more back. Okay, so there are not self themes and then not self strategies to help you get out of that not self themes, which was the slide that you just saw. But now we're on the first one. So if you have your graph up and you're following along with us, anywhere you have open, go ahead and look at the corresponding area. And I'm just going to briefly go through them. If the head or crown is open, a tendency that is easy to fall into is thinking about things that don't matter or trying to ask or try to answer other people's questions that you're picking up on. And so the wisdom in the head center is understanding which of your inspirations are coming from a place of your true authentic self and which inspirations are just flashing by because you're picking up on someone else's energy. So there's a wisdom in learning to discern what to pursue based on the mechanics of this center. The ajna, there's a tendency or subconscious desire to be certain about everything you say. And I can attest to that. Yes, of course, everyone wants to feel certain and confident in what they're saying. But if this is open, there can be that anxiety that it has to be that way or something like that. But anyways, then we have the throat. If this is open, the not self theme is trying to attract attention. And we can go into a little more details with how that plays out between us in a bit. The G center, if it's open, there is a tendency to be fixated on finding love or direction, or just to question your identity. This is our identity center. If it is open, you do not have a consistent sense of self. So that's something you are here to develop and work on trusting.
I'll speak on that one real briefly. I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the people that are in the twin flame community probably have that one open.
A lot of people do. And in fact, now I'm curious to know what the percentage is. Oh, perfect. It's right here. In fact, when it comes to the G center, 56% of our population have it closed, or I mean defined, and 44% have it open. So yeah, nearly half. And again, there's nothing wrong or right about having something open or closed or having this gate or that gate. It is just showing you where you are unique and how to maximize your uniqueness, so to say.
That's one of the things that I've talked about on my channel quite a bit, is that, especially for men, society really makes it like wrong for you to like want to be in a relationship or to be seeking a partner, or to, not necessarily be maybe your best without having someone else around. And what I've been learning through my astrology, gene keys, and human design is that, like, on some level, I'm actually built to be with another person, and I'm built to flourish in those conditions, and like it's actually okay. And I think it would be really great if if people felt okay, you know, wanting those things, because we're all made wrong for it. And yeah, I mean, that's basically all I had to
I
say.
kind of want to skip to the definition part,
Okay.
because I have something to say that kind of connects in with what you were saying.
Are you hearing like these airboats out here coming through my mic?
No.
Okay. Because there's been like people out here and like airboats and planes and everything.
I heard a couple things, but it was a while ago. But I think we're
Okay.
good now. All right.
A couple of people have shared which centers they have open, so maybe we could talk about theirs specifically when you're done.
Okay. So you want me to say what I was going to say in
Yep.
response to you, and then we'll jump back?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I kind of like jumping around. It's more
Natural.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So definition refers to energy connections within your body graph. So this isn't a very good diagram. So I'm just going to go back to our charts right here. So as you can see, both body graphs here, I, on the left, have what's called split definition. So I guess I should go and explain really quickly what, oh no. Oh, sorry. Okay. So single definition means all the centers that you have colored in are connected by a channel. Split definition means that you have centers connected in your graph, but those two connections aren't connected to each other. So there's a split in the energy flow. Triple split is when there are three distinct connections that are all separate from each other. And then quadruple split, same thing, but with 4 splits. And the more splits you have, the longer it's going to take you to process information, because each of these centers, each of the connections between the centers are processing energy independently. And so once each of those places independently process, it then brings it together. So a lot of people with split, triple split, and quadruple split can be labeled as slow, when really they're actually processing so much information and so deeply that it just takes a little more time. But that doesn't mean that they're slow or dumb or any other things that tend to come up with these types. And so I have split and Joe has single. As you can see, my splenic center and sacral are connected with the channel 5027, the gate of preservation, or the channel of preservation. And then my throat and G center are connected by gate 3313, the channel of the prodigal, sharing from experiences. And Joe over here, you'll notice that they're all connected. He has channel 3254, 3410, 5710, and 4426. I don't know the names of those off the top of my head. I haven't quite looked. Yes, I've looked into both of our charts pretty deeply, but I've looked into mine much more, just because when you're first learning it and you want to compare it to something, you want to compare it to your own experience. And so I can speak a lot deeper on my own chart than his. But anyways.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, a couple actually, but is there ever a case where people have charts where they have everything defined and or everything connected, and are there cases where everyone or someone has everything undefined and or everything not connected?
Yes. In fact, all the centers do have to be defined in order to have quadruple split, because there has to be 4 different areas connected.
Right.
And then if everything's open, then you're a reflector.
Okay. When you say open, you mean like there's no
undefined
channels connected.
Open and undefined.
Wow. Okay. So that would be like really interesting to navigate as a person. It'd almost be like you didn't have your own ego.
Pretty much. Like I said, I worked with one of my personal training clients out of college was a younger girl. I think she was 15 or 16. But she had many special needs. But the thing is she was labeled as special needs when really she's just a reflector and has a lot of needs that she didn't have that great of an understanding on.
Right.
So, anyways, but the reason I brought up definition was to go into the concept of we tend to seek out people who connect our splits. And you might tend to get along or resonate better with people that help connect your splits. And what I mean by that is when two people with two unique individual body graphs come into the same space, their energies are interfacing with each other. And you can think about, so if one person has something colored in, that energy then absorbs into the openness of you, and you experience that energy temporarily. So I find it interesting that Joe bridges my split here with gate 10. In fact, he has the entire channel 5710 that helps with that. So he helps me to connect my two different processing style or processing places. So if you have split, double split, or quadruple split, let me just say this real quick and then, yeah.
You're talking about how people complete each other.
Yes. My open crown just lost a thought.
Well, I'm sure you'd think of it again, but I just wanted to comment on the difference in the two charts and like some of the things that I observed when I first looked at it. Like on my chart is you can see it's what the G center, sacral, and root are all connected and defined. And when I saw this and I was noting the differences between the two of us, it made sense to me because I felt like my experience of life and what I was most familiar with was like really in alignment with sort of what I see as the shamanic path, which has a lot to do with like the lower realms, the lower three chakras, the underworld, the denser energies. And then when I met you, you have the undefined root, and you're so much lighter and more like airy than I am. You're spending a lot more time up in the higher realms and like just music that you listen to and that type of thing. And I just thought it was really interesting. And I also found it interesting, like you said, like how when we're together, it's like we're sort of like meeting in the middle and like bridging that, you know. I don't know if your last statement had anything to do with that, but I just thought that was something that was cool about our two charts.
Yeah. I think we talked about that in our very, very, very first video over a year ago now. Whew, that was a while ago.
Yeah. We've got a few questions. And again, if you want to save these for a certain point,
let me just say this one thing before I forget it again. And then, okay. Yes, I'm open to questions. So if you're a person who feels like you're thinking one thing, but feeling another, or if inner conflict of making a decision and feeling both perspectives so strongly, it's likely that you have split definition, triple split, or quadruple split. Again, that's the different areas processing that information, and then it has to relay it all to each other. And that can take a lot of time if you're in an environment that doesn't have anyone to help you connect that. And then in regards to, I don't know if this is a question someone asked or had asked me, but in regards to looking at this in conjunction with the perspective of the chakras, we have obviously the crown, obviously the third eye, obviously the throat. Now, when it comes to the heart, the G and ego center or heart center are both connected with our heart chakra. And then sacral center, obviously, solar plexus, obviously, root center, obviously, and then splenic center kind of goes in with all three of the primitive chakras. So it's not necessarily just the sacral or just the root, but it's along with the lower chakras in general. So anyways, okay, I'm ready for questions.
So Sentinel actually, I think, was kind of joking, but at the same time, if you look at this through the language of bioenergetics, actually might make some sense. Sentinel said, single definition here. root, sacral, G, and throat are connected. Does that give me a backbone?
Sacral, G, and throat.
So basically,
Essentially,
all four are lined up, and it would look like a spine. And the thing, like I said, that's funny is if you're looking through the lens of bioenergetics, like if you read Bioenergetics by Alexander Lowen, it might actually make sense that it would give you a backbone. Like it would make you someone who would be described.
I mean, the lower chakras correspond with our spine, our spinal column. So I mean, yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. So we've got 3 people have given us different centers that are open, and I'm wondering if you can maybe comment on them a little bit. So
can I say one more comment to the last question
or
comment? So another element that this system goes into is circuitry. And so circuitry is particular channels, combinations of channels. So for instance, this from gate 58 all the way up through here, all the way through the outside, and then back down 6311 around the outside, back down to gate 41. That circuitry is known as the collective circuitry, and that can give you a little more insight into where your energy is here to belong, where you're here to help out with. There is a intrapersonal circuitry, there is a sensing circuitry, there is a logical circuitry, and the more gates or channels you have within that circuitry can tell you a lot about yourself. So I'd have to look at his chart specifically to see what is connecting all those 4 that he listed out. But yeah, so there's so many facets, and I just love how specific this is. There's even something called the primary health system, which utilizes the arrows to go into your ideal digestion type, your ideal environment, your ideal way to manifest, and your ideal way to perceive and be aware of your environment. So we're not going to go into all of it, but I could.
I think those things are super important though. Like I think that a lot of people are in, for example, environments that aren't suited for them whatsoever, like me being in a city, not a good plan. People have been conditioned by, their upbringing to, eat foods that are really not in alignment with their body and like their type. Like there's so many things that if you had this information, you could make some changes that would be like, unbelievable. And yeah, it just really can provide that. That's why I think, getting a reading is a great thing to do. Definitely very helpful.
Yeah. And if you have dove down the human design rabbit hole, I'd highly encourage you to look up the body graph of your parents, because the places they have colored in or defined, and maybe you had that same place in your body graph open, left you highly susceptible to the conditioning of their definition. And this can really help to unwind childhood patterns, unwind childhood trauma even, and things like that. So there's I utilize this fairly often with clients. It's one of the things that I'll kind of always bring back up and be like, oh, that's coming from this center, or this tendency is coming from this place, or was your mother a manifestor and you're a projector? That's a very, very common thing for projectors or manifestors, which are the non-energy types who do not have the motor centers consistent in their graph. If they grew up with generator parents who are very go, 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 lots of energy to do this and do that, they can then pick up on that pattern, pick up on their strategy and their authority and use it as theirs. But doing that can lead to disease in the body, disharmony, imbalances, internal resistance, and that's the stuff we're trying to heal. So any place where you feel that something is out of alignment, it's probably coming from a conditioned pattern you picked up on, either consciously or subconsciously, mostly subconsciously. So.
Yeah, and there's like conditioning happening on a collective level,
Yeah.
to entire societies that is really not in alignment with a lot of people. You know, for some people, the way the system does things, it actually works. You know, I know people that do really well with the way that the average government would have it done, or the average educational system would have it done. There are an awful lot of people that can't fit into that really need something else, and you know, they're not seen or heard. And so, you know, this can really provide us with a foundation from which to build better systems for people who, you know, think and act in different ways.
Mm-hmm. It's really about learning what's best for you by first knowing who you really are, because we're all growing up, all this conditioning makes us believe we are things that we're actually not. Back to the example of a projector growing up with generator parents and always using that as an example and a comparison rod, when really that's just not how they're built. But I think you touched on that a little bit earlier too, so I'll leave that one there. Let's see. We talked a little bit about how this is just another I guess, slide to hammer home that strategy goes along with your type. Strategy and type will always go hand in hand. And this kind of puts it in a little bit of in different words. Quantum human design is a system, or I guess, well, Karen Curry Parker created the quantum human design system, where she incorporates EFT and a few other things as well based on her personal life experience. I have taken a number of her courses now, and I really love the way that she explains it and goes into things. So if you're looking for another resource, another reliable resource to learn about human design from, this is one person I would highly, highly suggest. So yeah, another name for manifestors is initiators. You are here to initiate and inform people what you will be initiating. Generators, so any generators out there, and me and Joe, we are alchemists. We are here to take in energy from our environment, process it, and transmute it into something better, or transmute that lesson into wisdom, or whatever it may be. So strategy, waiting to respond, and going from there. The generator's sacral authority only works in the present moment. So it is extra, extra, extra important to focus on staying present if you're a generator. Staying present applies to everyone, but some based on your type a little more. The manifesting generator is known as the time bender. They're here to speed up the process of things because they have the energy to do it, or the energy to internally create it, and then the energy to also manifest that into the world. So manifesting generators are awesome at multitasking. In fact, it is actually correct for you to multitask. The other types, not so much. I know, I'm sure anyone who's into psychology or just working on healing your attention span and things like that have heard that you can really only focus on one thing at once. You're really just bouncing back and forth, and that is true. But time benders have an ability to really flow with multitasking better than others. Okay. The next type is the projector, and in quantum human design, it is called the orchestrator. These are people who are great at counseling, giving direction. In fact, some human design readers even go as far to say that projectors are here to guide the generators. Generators are all over the place. Generators are meant to do the majority of the work here on this planet, which makes sense given what we're doing right now. But projectors are there to be more of like, I don't know if agent's the right word, but yeah, counselor or guide. We'll just leave it. I thought I had a better word, but we'll leave it there. And then the reflector or the calibrator, they are supposed to wait for a lunar cycle. Only 1% of the population are reflectors. But if you ever meet one, they are special. So letting them know that with all their centers being open, they are very sensitive and very susceptible to their not self themes. So if you're aware of human design and happen to come across a reflector, I don't know, just be sure to give them a little extra love, or at least that's what I did, or that's what I do. Okay. Joe went to the bathroom, I think, so I have no idea if you guys are commenting or not. But I guess I'll just move on. Let's talk about authority. So again, type and strategy hand in hand. Authority, that's a different thing that can fluctuate. There are 7 different types of authority, 5 of which are created internally, and then 2 of which are externally. And that gets kind of complex. There's a lot of nuance with that. I could spend a whole hour talking about each authority on its own, but for the sake of time, I actually have no idea what time it is right now. We will just briefly touch on each one. So if you are a generator or a manifesting generator, there is a potential for you to have a sacral authority. And in fact, the next slide demonstrates this a little bit better. So here are sorry guys. So here are the 7 types of authority and where the center is in the body graph. And now different types only have potentials for certain authorities. And that is what this here will show you. Okay, I guess I should explain what authority is first. So authority is the place in our body graph that is always consistent to us and the place that we are designed to check in with when we make decisions. So, so there is emotional authority, in which the solar plexus would be defined, sacral authority, sacral defined, splenic authority, spleen defined, ego authority, heart defined, G center authority, G center defined, mental tone. Now, I don't know why the crown is colored in. I do believe that it's the majority ajna in regards to mechanics. Not much of the percentage has this particular type of authority. But if you do, feel free to book a reading and we can dive deeper into that then. And then lunar authority is when pretty much only reflectors have this, because all your centers would have to be open, and then you rely on the moon cycle. So that is, if you have to make a big decision, waiting at least a month to process all the emotional waves and energy you pick up on about said decision up until that day. It takes a lot more time to process things when you have that much openness. So as you can see, here are the types, and here's what each basically mean. If you have a sacral authority, you are here to follow your gut instincts, listen to your or And again, this authority only operates in the present moment. So you cannot use your sacral authority to use what if questions. It has to be in your physical environment to respond to it. Emotional solar plexus authority. This is when, if you have this defined and it's your authority, you are here to ride your emotional wave and then gather. Are you good? So you're supposed to, I kind of lost my flow. Oh, ride the entirety of that emotional wave and then make a decision. Making decisions, if you make that decision any point before that emotional wave kind of dies down, there is potential for it to be out of alignment for you. So I think I just explained this, but I got a little.
Sorry, my connection dropped. It totally dropped the client and everything. You're good.
It dropped everyone?
It dropped me. You're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everything's good.
Okay, so yeah, follow through with the emotions and then wait for the clarity to come. So you can think about it like riding a wave, and you're collecting information along each point of that wave. And then once it's done, you reevaluate all the data you collected and use that to decide. If you have a splenic authority, this is usually like the first instinct, your first thought, your first intuition when something presents itself. It's similar to the sacral in that it's in the moment, it's in the now, but this is more of like a overall sense, a feeling, so to say. Um, da, da, da.
We have another question whenever you're ready.
Okay, I mean, I guess it all says it right there. So again, I could explain any one aspect for a very long amount of time. So I'm trying to really just hit the high points, which is tough because in my mind, it's all connected and it's all important. So it's, yeah, okay. What's the questions? You're frozen. I hope I'm not frozen. Are y'all there? I guess I don't know. Oh, I guess I could pull it up, although. What's going on?
The connection is, it just keeps dropping. Sorry.
Pulled it up on my phone.
The feed?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the feed's fine. I think they can hear you fine. It's just on my end. It just keeps dropping the client for whatever reason all of a sudden. So let's see. I'm typing into the chat right now.
I'm looking at the chat from my phone. It's kind of catching up. Does the, oh wow, we haven't even gotten to the profiles.
Yeah, so did you see Sentinel's question?
No. Does profile give you any high level info about someone? For example, mine says, okay, well, let's skip to profiles. Here's my profile slide. All right, so what is profile and how do you figure out what yours is? Well, if you go to mybodygraph.com, it'll just say it over to the side in the chart view, but where those numbers came from were the sun and earth on both your conscious and unconscious sides. So like I mentioned at the very beginning about how there's the gate number and then a period and then the line number. We haven't touched on what the lines mean, but we're going to do that right here and right now. Again, it's important to remember that no line is better or worse than another. It's an archetypal energy of something your soul chose to come and embody, came to accomplish. So the first number is driven from the conscious side and the second is the unconscious side. So a lot of times you'll tend to resonate with the first number a little bit more. And then the second number, not quite as much. Probably still so, but not as readily. It's not in your conscious, it's deeper in you. So in this bottom left-hand corner, it shows the line archetypes I just mentioned. The lower three are known as the personal. So this has something to do with, or this has to do with inner work, personal work, figuring yourself out. The upper three are interpersonal. So this is how you interact with the world, what you're here to share, what you're here to give, so to say. There are 12 different possible configurations, and you can find them both here and here. Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. I wasn't sure. So anyways, Joe and I both have the same profile. We are 6'2s. So we are here to be a role model and a hermit. And that is part of our unique process. And we have been playing that out, no doubt. But let me see the question again. Does the profile give you any high level info about someone? Yes. The way I interpret it is it gives me, one, the general archetypal themes of the overall lifetime. Some even get specific with life patterns, or for example, the line 6 will usually live out their life in 3 distinct stages. The first of which is the gaining experience, trial and error. The next part of their life will be understanding and integrating all of those. And then the last part of their life will be teaching from a place of embodiment and overcoming all of those things. And Mm, so 2-5. Let's just talk about 2-5. Not going to overthink it. Let's just do 2-5. All right. So as you can see, the 2 came from the conscious side. So that is the hermit in you. This means that you like your alone time. You like to disconnect from people so you can feel yourself. From what I've been noticing from all the readings I've done is that if you have a 2 in your profile, it's likely that you have a good amount of open centers. Or if you have line 2, you have part of the circuit of sensitivity. In fact, there's a whole list. I believe it's 5 or 6 gates that contribute to your degree of sensitivity. And I pretty much have every single one. I think I have all of them but one. So yeah, I feel that there. But
yeah, and I've a lot of them. I don't know how many I have, but
what do you mean?
You said that like you were telling me that in terms of like being sad, you had all of the things that like made you like as sensitive as you could possibly be, and that like I was like many but pretty close.
Yeah, you have a lot of the logical circuit.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Okay, but then 5. 5, oh yeah, 5, the heretic. This is someone, this line usually will draw in people who project onto them. If you have a 5 in your profile, it's likely that a lot of people come to you for help. They expect you to have the answers and rely on you quite a bit. Again, they're projecting their problems onto you and they think that you have the answers when in fact, well, I mean, you might have the answer some of the time. It depends. So I guess, again, it's hard for me to go general. I like going specific. So without having the full graph in front of me, it's hard to generalize, but I'm doing my best here. Well, line 5 is also a trial and error archetype, meaning that you are here to figure out what works for you by experiencing what does not work for you, and then going from there. There's a lot I could go into with each one of these. I'm a little overwhelmed with where to dive in, but the 2-5 was a helpful. Are you good?
The connection keeps dropping, so if it does that, just don't even worry about it. It's all fine on your end.
Oh, general traits. Oh, okay. I didn't see that part. Oh, so hopefully that answers your question.
Half the time.
I can't hear you. It's stuttered.
Yeah, I know. I can only hear you about half the time. The connection's terrible all of a sudden.
Do we just want to, I guess we'll just.
You're good. The feed is fine. Your computer is fine. It's me out here. So don't worry about me. So just keep rolling.
Okay, well, all right. Let's just go ahead. Why isn't it going back? Okay. So let's just talk. I have a slide for each place we have that's different, and we'll just talk a little bit about each one, and then I guess we could wrap it up. You're frozen again. So this is the part where we were going to conversate about our similarities and differences. So this is going to be a little tricky if you're not there. All right, I'm just going to keep rolling, I guess. All right, so we are now going to talk about the root center, what it means when it's opened, what it means when it's closed, what it means when you have it defined and you're around someone that doesn't, or vice versa. Root center, as you can see in the description on these pictures, this is our connected with our adrenaline, our primitive instincts, our drives, ambitions, worry. It's also a pressure center. So if this is open, you are more susceptible to anxiety, especially around the idea of getting things done. All right. The root center also is responsible for timing of not only when to take action, but rhythms of work. Now, when this is defined, it actually pulses on and off, and it doesn't become open or undefined when it's off, but it's just the way that the energy comes out of it. And if you have this colored in, you have a grounded sense of when it's time to work, when it's time to rest. That's not to say that that's completely true, because both open and closed centers are susceptible to conditioning, but the defined centers are a lot more difficult to absorb negative patterns in. It's still possible, but a lot less common. So as you can see in Joe and I's body graph, his is defined, mine is open. So let's talk about what that looks like for us. Or I guess I'll start with speaking from my experience. So as an open root, I have the feeling that I'm never done with my work. Things are never finished. There's always more to do. And that's actually part of the not self theme of the root center. So when this is open, it is extra important that you consciously integrate rest time and have strict boundaries around your work schedule. Open centers, people with open roots tend to be the people that will work all day long, and then someone asks them to do something and then they'll go do that for the rest of the night. Or there's just, again, the feeling of go, 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 can't ever stop. This having an open root can lead to adrenal fatigue. There's a lot of other elements that can contribute to adrenal fatigue, but this is one of them. When it's defined, again, like I mentioned, it's consistent, it's reliable, it has a pulse of when to work, when to rest, when to work, when to rest. And there's not really a question around that. There's not really a question of, oh, am I done? Have I done enough? Or things of that nature. So the high expression, if you do have it open, such as myself, is to be comfortable with working at your own pace and know that there is wisdom. I'm just going to read it. There is wisdom about when to move forward and when to be still. Be patient, be peaceful, patient, and balanced. Okay, so that's surrendering to the flow of life, surrendering to your own ebbs and flows. And then the low expression of that is, like I described, living on burnout. You're on autopilot all the time. You're pretty much addicted to stress, that adrenal fatigue. You fluctuate between being hyperactive and extremely focused on a task. And this can contribute a lot to anxiety or unconscious mistakes that lead to accidents, things of that nature. Do you have anything to say on the root center?
No, I don't have anything in particular. I was actually trying to turn off the auto recording in case it dropped me again, so it doesn't keep giving you that message over and over again. And I'm actually going to stop it right now. Though it shouldn't do that again, even if I were to drop. I moved my laptop, so it shouldn't do that again. But no, I don't have anything to add right this second. So.
Okay. I'm talking about how we have opposites of these things and how we differ. So just keep.
Right.
I was hoping we could discuss real life examples about this stuff.
Well, unfortunately, with all the connection issues, it's been kind of hard to focus. Now I should be okay and able to listen.
Okay. Moving on to the heart center or the ego center. Same thing in human design. Okay. When this is undefined, you can see in the top left, the not self themes that can arise. Sense of worth is a big component that a lot of people deal with. And when I'm working with clients and I pull up human design and I see that their heart center is open, it just connects a lot of dots and helps me and them to better understand their tendencies and how to counteract those tendencies. So people with an open heart feel a very strong desire to prove their worth. They don't feel as though they're enough, given it from childhood trauma or childhood pattern from one of their parents having this defined, or there's a lot of facets to go into with that component. But for now, if you have it opened, it is a lot easier for you to fall into the energy of feeling unworthy, undervalued, or like you're not good enough. And I can speak from experience. As you can see over here, mine is open and Joe's is defined.
Yeah, that's actually the one that we spoke about, that I really didn't feel like I resonated with having that defined, because given my life trajectory, like I've struggled a lot with self-worth, but a lot of that had to do with like the fact that like I did not take a very like straight and narrow path through life. Like I took a path that like, you know, really other people look down upon a lot. So I think that just due to the external pressure of like having so many people like hammer it into me that I wasn't good enough, I think it like overrode this, because I think I can feel how it would make sense given my personality that this would be the case. And I think maybe that's how I've been able to like overcome that. But I still think that there's a part of me that, you know, has succumbed to the conditioning, so to speak.
Well, you must have missed it, because I was just explaining how all centers, whether they are open or closed, defined or undefined, are susceptible to conditioning. Now, the degree of sensitivity the degree of susceptibility is much higher in open centers, but closed centers can be defined too. And what you're talking about connects with a lot of different elements of your chart as well, especially the throat center, which we're going to get into next. But yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
This is also our place of motivation. And that makes sense that your ability to overcome that, this center helped a lot with helping you remember your self-worth and that type of stuff from post path.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Can you see the live chat?
Oh, I have it over here, but there's a lot
Okay.
going on.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you were still monitoring it or not.
I wasn't.
Okay.
Well,
there's just a couple of things on there. Samantha says she's 6'2", and Jaden had a question for you whenever you feel like taking a stab at it.
Okay. So yeah, so if you're a 6'2", you probably have similar life themes to Joe and I. You are here to learn through experience and master a particular modality, especially if you're a 6'2" generator along with that. But then there's another part of you that likes to be alone, that likes to self-reflect in isolation. And from my personal experience, it's about finding a balance and an ebb and flow with that. A lot of times, or throughout my life, I've either been in completely the 6 or completely the 2, over long periods of time, that is, and not having a consistent ebb and flow with those types of energies, which is what I'm working on now. And I think I'm finally coming to a place of balance with that. But yeah, so hopefully that was a little helpful there. And then any info advice for a 1-3 would be great. So I can go to...
While you're looking that up, I'd really like to see some data on what the overall profiles and lines of the people who watch my channel are. See like who resonates with me.
Yeah. Maybe just start noting a couple things down. Anyways, maybe we could do like a survey or a poll or something like that on our website once it's up.
Yeah.
All right, so a 1-3, both of your lines are in the personal trigam. So you are here to live a very personal journey, lots of self-work, lots of inner work. I was trying to think. I thought, oh, never mind. I was mixing up a number. I was trying to think of a person as an example who I know has this chart, but anyways. The Investigator Archetype. That is the side that you are conscious of. So you probably love researching, looking into things, seeing things with your own eyes, not taking anything at face value, but really looking into it, really investigating it. Investigator, that word really kind of sums up that archetype. And so that is part of who you are, part of what you're designed to do. And then the line 3 is a trial and error line. So a lot of times people with line 3 have been through some not fun stuff in life. But it's important to remember that your soul came to experience said trauma or whatever it may have been, and then to learn, oh, well, I guess I could, my mind is really wandering now that I'm getting hungry.
Well, we'll be done fairly soon. It's been
2 hours.
Yeah, we've been on here for a while. Thanks for hanging with us, guys.
Yeah, I feel very flustered.
It's okay. Do you have a lot of slides left?
I don't know. I didn't even go in order. I made this PowerPoint so I could go through in order and not get off track, but I've been going all around the PowerPoint, so that defeated the purpose.
Well, I mean, that's okay. I mean, we could always review the video and see what we covered and what we didn't. I guess, do you have anything else right now that you feel that you haven't covered that you would like to?
I guess we could just finish up. This was the last thing I had planned. I think I might have missed something back at the beginning of the PowerPoint, but
okay. All right. And we'll ask if anybody has any remaining questions. We'll try to answer a couple, and then we'll probably wrap it up.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's another thing I've learned about my design. We'll save the arrows digestion environment for another talk because that's going to be so much more to get into. Yeah. But basically, okay, so look at this bottom right hand image right here. The top left arrow tells you about your digestion. And if you have that arrow pointing to the left, that means that your digestion or your brain is active. So there's so much to explain with this, but basically all I'm trying to get at is that when you have this arrow facing left, it's actually not very supportive to your body to fast. In fact, when people with the left facing arrow don't eat for long periods of time, the first thing that goes is brain function. And that's kind of what's happening to me now. Not that my brain isn't functioning, but it's not functioning as optimally and as fluent as I did when I began. If you have this arrow pointed to the right, fasting can be very beneficial for you. That would be known as a passive digestive system. You are designed to eat when you feel called to, and there's tones and colors that tell you more details about your diet and what's supportive and what's not supportive. But again, so basically all I was trying to say there is I have an active mind and I haven't eaten for quite a few hours and I'm losing brain power. Okay, we'll finish off with the throat center. Throat center is underneath the third eye and above the G center. I have this defined Joe has this undefined. So let's talk about what that means and how it plays out. And if you have this open or undefined, or open or defined, see? Okay. The overall theme of the third chakra, third center, just to refresh, is communication, manifestation, materialization, contact with the exterior world, outlet for energy and expression, speaking and doing. When this is open, the not self theme people can tend to fall into is trying to attract attention. They want to be heard, they want to be seen, they want to be validated. And to look into more details on the quality of how that looks for the individual, you would look at the gates, which you can see over here. And now, depending on which gates you have, that'll change the nature of that center, whether it's open or defined.
This is one that I definitely need to explore in more detail, because what she just described in terms of the not self theme was 100% me. Like, if you guys saw my first 2 or 3 years of making videos, like, I was literally just word vomiting at the camera, like everything that I was thinking for like 3 years. And I was making, like, at one point, multiple videos a day, and certainly multiple videos a week for a long time. And a lot of it was like, I want to be heard. I don't feel like I'm heard. I don't feel like people see me. I need attention. I want people to understand what I'm saying, and they don't. And like, yeah. So I know.
Oh, yeah. That is a spot on example of the not self energy in the throat center. Yes. And it makes a lot of sense. And it's cool to, even if you have gone through an energy or gone through a pattern and you've overcome it, and you look into this system after you've already been through it, it can provide a lot of just confirmation. And again, that extra confirmation.
Yeah, just to like let go of like any shame you might have about having done that. I mean, that's sort of what it's doing for me, is like going, okay, so this is sort of built in. I was meant to do that, and meant to overcome that, and meant to see, what I was doing and correct it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so we can see that in the low expression and high expression of having an undefined third center. Low expression is speaking from a means of wanting attention, obsession over what to say and how to say it, saying the wrong things at the wrong time, feeling out of control, yada, yada. But then the high expression of it is feeling comfortable with your unique style of self-expression, both with talking in silence, wisdom about speaking and acting from their truth. So that makes a lot of sense. Yep. Yeah.
So is that all for the throat center?
I wanted to go into the gates that we have, but I don't know if I could
do that next week
fluently.
Which let's just save that for next week. I mean, we've done a 2-hour presentation at this point. It's been great. I know that people have definitely enjoyed it, and there's so much to go into. Like, we don't need to cover it all in one video. Like, it's totally cool. And then we can, with the other stuff, we can actually go into a little bit more detail than we otherwise might have. So it's totally cool. We can take as long as we need to like cover this topic,
Maybe I could even one day just pull your chart up and do a live reading for you on here.
Yeah, that would be cool. And
then people could see what a live reading would be like, because I'm much better when I know what I'm referring to, I know what I'm referencing, but the generalities get really overwhelming.
Yeah, and that would be really helpful for me too, because I don't think that I've really, I know that you've gone through my chart like in detail and the whole thing, but I don't. And so that would actually be, I think, beneficial for the audience and beneficial for me, because then I can relate to it and say, oh yeah, I might even have like epiphanies on camera, like, oh, that makes sense. I think that'd be totally cool. And like I said, we can take as long as we need to review this, and we can go into depth and detail with different aspects, like the arrows. If you want to like explain more about that, we can totally do that next week.
Yeah, looking into the spleen gate can tell you about potential common fears that you're dealing with and how to move through them, how to accept them for what they are, and then move through them. But yeah, there's so much to unpack with this modality. I love it so much. The complexity is amazing.
I'm starting, my mosquito repellent is wearing off as well. So I've got like 3 on my back right now.
Ouch.
But yeah, if anybody has any closing questions, yeah, shoot them in right now. Because we're gonna wrap up here. And I'm just to make a brief announcement, like I'm well, we're both actually working part-time. And so I'm trying to put out more video content. But my schedule is a little bit, it's a lot right now for me. So I'm not able to make as much content as I would like. But I am available, and Sydney is also available for sessions. Sydney is available for human design readings. She's been doing them for a while. And do you have the link? Can you provide the Linktree link now? And I'll put it in the chat, or you can put it in the chat on your phone if you want.
Oh.
Yeah, just put it in the YouTube chat. So we're gonna give you the Linktree information there. And then, if anybody wants a session with me, joefortincoaching.com is up and running. I'm making some modifications to it, but it's good to go. I would suggest though that you email me first. Get with me first. Let's, chat, text back and forth. We can do a quick consult on the phone. That's generally the best way. And then we can agree on a time. But yeah, Sydney's got a couple of different types of sessions she's offering. She's doing the fascial maneuver modality. Sydney's also a personal trainer. And so, there's a lot of different services that we can provide. And, we'd love to work with you guys. Did you get Samantha's comment, Sydney?
I guess I'm logged into your account on my phone. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I just commented my Linktree that has pretty much all my stuff on there. If you click book a one-on-one, you'll see the session options, and the description should have the price and whatnot. And then Jaden just asked, does astrology tie into human design? That makes things very complex and confusing. I'm personally still understanding its complexities at the moment. I just recently started trying to compare, contrast, and see how astrology fits in, because it utilizes the astrological planets, or planets of astrology, whatever. So we can talk about that another day.
Yeah. And just real briefly, if you look at the charts, the icons that are on the outer edges actually have the signs and some of the planets, right, Sydney?
Yep. In fact, I even put I put some extra slides in. Oh yeah. Tells you about
so it's the
planet and what it's about. So yeah, it gets so specific with what you can learn about yourself, because not only do you have the gate, but depending on where the gate is in your body graph and what planet the gate is on the side can tell you a lot about the context of how that energy is going to play out. But yeah.
You can get really, really specific with this stuff. And like, I'm currently reading a book that compares and contrasts some of the differences between Vedic and Western astrology. And like with Vedic astrology, there's a lot of like celestial bodies that they take into account that Western astrology doesn't address whatsoever, like asteroids and, different things like that. And human design, it's very, very detailed and specific. It cuts things into little pieces, which is kind of like what science does, right? So it's like a scientific way of looking at, like astrology and stuff like that. It's all related. There's definitely information to be gleaned from all the different systems. And yeah, it's fun just exploring it. I will admit I haven't gotten into this one as much, because like I said, when I met Sydney is the one who introduced me to this concept, and I'd kind of gotten out of research mode, but starting to get back into it. And, we're always watching videos and learning more. So did you see,
oh, wait. Thank you for your tips on the generator. I love all the information. The graphs are really great for oh yeah. Oh, thank you, Samantha. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm also a very visual learner, so I'm glad that we resonate on that.
All right. Well, I guess that about does it for today. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Sid, for putting together that awesome PowerPoint.
I should have done it in order. I don't know why I got, anyway.
Okay. It came out the way it needed to. It's all good. So we love you guys, and we will see you again next Friday at 1 p.m. EST, if not sooner. So have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.